What health insurance options are there for my small business? Find out today on Tax Talk with special guest Bob Parker of HealthMarkets. Hi, everyone. This is Attorney Patrick Best, the tax attorney with Tax Talk. And today, I actually have a special guest with me, Bob Parker from HealthMarkets. Bob, would you mind introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about what you do?
Yes, I have an office in Wilkes, Township, Pennsylvania. We're part of HealthMarkets, which is the largest brokerage for health insurance and Medicare insurance in the country, headquartered in Texas, but we have offices all over Pennsylvania. For people less than 65, we're also federal agents. I'm actually agent 7064461, but I don't carry a gun, I carry a computer. And I help people get money to pay their health insurance, which is what I do on a regular basis, particularly self-employed people who have to learn to take advantage of their tax credit or get tax advantages that are available to them, which is what you do.
Yep. So I should tell everyone that you and I work together frequently. I send the small businesses I work with who need health insurance, I send them to you, and then vice versa. When you have people who are trying to get the healthcare subsidies through the healthcare marketplace, sometimes we need to make sure that they're either using the proper health insurance deductions or alternatively trying to find legal deductions that reduce their income for the purposes of qualifying for the subsidies to begin with. Before we get into everything with Bob, I want to talk a little bit about some of the more confusing aspects of healthcare for small business owners. This gets pretty complicated, so don't worry, we're going to try to break it down and make it as simple as possible. In most cases, there's going to be two major tax advantages for you as a small business owner when you are looking at health insurance. The first is going to be the self-employment health insurance deduction. That's generally going to be available for you if you are a Schedule C self-employed or if you are an S Corp owner. The second is going to be the premium tax credit. This is what we would generally think of when you're talking about the Affordable Care Act subsidy that would be available through the insurance marketplace. It's actually just a tax credit. The self-employment health insurance deduction simply allows you to deduct the cost of your health insurance from your taxable income. It's pretty easy. All you have to do is pay your health insurance and then deduct the payments. There are special rules for S Corp owners who want to make this deduction, so just make sure you know those rules and follow those rules. The premium tax credit works a little bit differently. This is what you would think of if you're thinking of the subsidy that you would get through the healthcare marketplace. This is actually a refundable tax credit that you get when you purchase insurance through the marketplace and you qualify from an income standpoint. If you do qualify, you get a credit on your tax return, or you can have the credit advanced to reduce the monthly payments. This is where tax planning comes in. If your income is too high, you may not qualify for a credit. So that's actually part of what I wanted to talk to you about today was the subsidies that you try to get for these people. Can you talk a little bit about how they work?
Well, what it amounts to is the subsidies are money that comes from the federal marketplace that basically are based on your home zip code, your ages in the family. The family income, not just individual income. So if you have a family with a husband and a wife both making income and a couple of kids, that could actually, if you have a couple of kids in their 20s, that income is considered part of it also. But your subsidies are based on that, also your tobacco status, whether or not you're using tobacco. So the prices are based on that, and then below a certain level, we help people get on Medicaid if they need financial assistance to that level. That's actually a state function, but I'm a federal agent, so I simply help them get a plan depending on the county. For instance, in Monroe County, you have a choice of Geisinger health plans or Highmark Blue Cross, and I help them get money to pay part of the premium. The premium prices are quite astronomical. I did a presentation to a business group in Stroudsburg just before the Affordable Care Act went into effect. And I still have this chart. I should have brought that put on here. From before that happened, and the expense plan for a family of 4 children and 2 adults, back in those days was about $400. And that was considered expensive just 6 years ago. But I'm looking at a couple right now. I'm looking at a piece of paper which I have information written down. So a couple age 60, I think 61 and 62, a bronze plan retails at $1,710, and that's the high deductible plan. A gold plan retails at $2,800. If they were making $150,000 a year, they would have to pay that. But if they make $67,000 a year, as an example, this particular couple, they get $1,976 a month from the federal government to pay their premium. So that means
a big gift.
It's a gift.
Yeah, it's a big gift.
So in reality, that means that bronze plan would be free of charge. They would have no cost to their health insurance premium. That silver plan, I didn't mention silver plan, but silver plan would cost them about $370, and the gold plan would cost them about $400, which is almost affordable. But without government subsidies, it's ridiculous. I mean, even if you're making $150,000 a year, having to pay $35,000 a year for health insurance is a little absurd, to say the least. That's what you do, and you've got all kinds of things that help business people cut their rates, cut their costs, so they can get their actual adjusted gross income, line 8B of the 1040, down to a level of manageable level.
Right. And actually, one of the main advantages, and I'm glad that you mentioned self-employed people, is that because the business deductions come before that adjusted gross income figure, if we can find legal business deductions to reduce the adjusted gross income, that could be the difference between qualifying for a subsidy or not qualifying for a subsidy, right?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And every businessman might do, I'm just using round figures, so a local fish shop over here might do $250,000 a year in sales, but that's not what they make. They, after paying all the costs, the owners of that business might only make $25,000 or $30,000 a year. But if they don't take advantage of all those deductions, then they're going to have to pay those ridiculous rates I'm just talking about for that particular couple in their 60s. Now, if they're in their 30s, it might be lower, but still, it's pretty absurd what the prices are.
Sure. And I mean, and even though the price is lower, people in their 30s generally are just getting started, particularly if they're business owners. They don't have the same amount of money in many cases. So the insurance is lower, but maybe their incomes are lower as well.
Right. So I hate this title, but the federal marketplace calls me an elite agent. I have a fancy title now, which means I hate the term elite because I just don't like elite term in the first place, but that means I do a whole lot of plans for the federal government on the marketplace. I get to print my own certificate though. They don't send me one. Because, the point is I do hundreds of these every year, and that's why I know how this thing works. I've been doing this since the first year the Affordable Care Act went into effect, and the prices have gone up an average of 20% a year since that, and I doubt very much that they're going to go down anytime in the future. I don't care what coronavirus does to us.
Right. So for people listening today, I mean, if they wanted to know what subsidy would be available or what income they needed, how would they find that out?
Well, the best way to do that is first, let me make a point about that. You can call the federal marketplace directly. Well, what you're going to find out is you're going to get what's called an enroller versus me, who's an agent. I had two examples recently, one yesterday, where the enroller was in a hurry to get to his coffee break. And this lady who qualified for substantial subsidy, they put her on a gold plan, which would have given her, and she's living on just above poverty level. It's just absurd how little money she makes. She has to live in a shared home, and it seems about $100 per month over the poverty level. And the plan they would have had her on would have had an $800 deductible and a $6,000 out-of-pocket maximum. But if the enroller would have used common sense, which he didn't, which I fixed for her, her deductible was $200 and her out-of-pocket maximum was $1,200. So that's the kind of thing I do, whether you're economically challenged or not. Just make sure you get the plan. These enrollers get their 10 hours worth of training a year. I have to go through over 100 hours worth of training. And I get paid not by the dollar value, but I get paid by the number of people enrolling. And I had the, but if they don't enroll, I don't get paid. But when I started this business 28 years ago, I get paid by the dollar value. So goal, of course, in those days was to sell a more expensive plan. Now I try to show people how they should possibly consider the least expensive plan depending on their health situation.
Yeah. So and that's actually two really good points you made, which point out for people here. So one, you're not paid on commission, so you're not trying to upsell.
I wish I was.
Yeah.
I don't
No.
sell anymore. I enroll people. I don't call
Right.
it selling as much as I call it enrolling.
Right. Right. And then two, does it cost someone any more money to work with you than it would if they just hopped on healthcare.gov and tried to do it themselves?
Well, if they do it themselves, they have to answer all the questions right. I know how to answer questions.
Right.
If I was sitting in front of them at their kitchen table, they would have to pay me a cup of coffee or a glass of water. In today's world, since we have to do things on Zoom or on the phone, of course, there's no cost at all. And the idea is, that was one person, lady, but I'm going to give you one more example. Another couple, I enrolled, and then he decided to try to call the marketplace himself. The enroller re-enrolled him and gave him a dental plan he didn't need because they already had a dental plan. So I had to go back in and straighten out what the enroller did. And the goal of having an agent is, this is my profession. I don't get paid by the hour. I get paid to take care of you. And probably a third, 25 to 30% of my time I do enrolling people. The rest of the time I help people with claims. I help people with a prescription cost, particularly Medicare people. Their prescription costs are astronomical. So a gentleman you and I know in a group over in Stroudsburg recently was diagnosed with a small brain tumor. And I had enrolled him in a plan called a critical illness plan. I got him a check for $10,000, which made him very happy. Okay, another couple was in the hospital for a couple of days, and they were having trouble with the insurance company, and I got them a check for $4,000. That's above and beyond the cost of the bills. These are the kind of things that I do on a regular basis to help people make sure that the claims are proper.
Right. And the other thing, I mean, assuming our audience here is probably going to be mostly small business owners. So some of the other things that you can help people with, if they have a corporation, you could set up special plans for those corporations too, correct?
I do group plans also.
Yes.
A group plan would be, you can't do this with a husband and wife alone, even if it's a corporation. You have to have at least one employee. That's not, so if you are Joe Smith, and you have Tom Smith, your son, involved in business, that's not an employee. It'd have to be Tom McGee as an employee. There's all kinds of rules that the insurance companies have for group plans. But the reality is, this is the important thing. Even group plans aren't as good a deal as the individual marketplace plan if they get the right subsidy. Just remember the one I just told you about. This couple, if they get their income down to $67,000, this is an older couple, they will be able to get a plan for nothing from the marketplace. Now that a plan with about a similar deductible on a group plan might cost them about $800 a month. Now, if you like paying $800 a month, I can still get paid the same amount of money myself on that. But if I get to it for nothing, I'd rather get it to them for the cheapest possible price I can get it to.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like the main advantage here is if someone's looking for health insurance for themselves or for their business, if they start with you, you can't go wrong because you're going to steer them in the right direction on both what they need as well as how to implement it as far as the taxes may be concerned. And you could even potentially work alongside me in that regard.
Well, in that regard, whenever they ask me a question about taxes, I am not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, I'm not allowed to give legal money advice. You are, right? So in that kind of situation, I say, I think this is the case, but if you don't call the proper person, you're never going to get the right answer.
Well, that's why we work together, though.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to tell them how to enroll.
I have people ask me accounting questions all the time and legal questions, and I have to be very careful. I really like my profession.
Yep.
And I don't really have to pay out of my errors and omissions policy because I said the wrong thing.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
That's a never-ending potential problem if you're not careful.
Well, if somebody here is looking to contact you, how could they do that?
Well, they can find us at HealthMarkets.com. /B Parker, standing for Bob, B Parker, or they can call us at 570-606-3236. That's our office line. And you'll usually get either a recording or our secretary, Pat Turner, and she will set up a time. I have to see people by appointment. Unfortunately, I am busy enough that I can't just take calls in the middle of nowhere and sit down with people. I'm not quite as busy as a lawyer, but I am sometimes busier than I want to be.
Yeah. Well, I will, for anyone who's interested, I'm actually going to put your information in the description below. So if you're listening, interested in reaching out to Bob to find out what you can do in terms of your healthcare options, just click on the description below. You'll see the link for both his website as well as his phone number. So Bob, before we go, anything that you would like to leave any viewer with, any piece of wisdom that you may have people should know when they're looking for health insurance?
Well, the biggest problem I think people have in today's world is the number of people on the telephone that are selling crap plans. The government's plans I'm talking about are called minimal essential coverage plans. That's a government term, not an insurance company term, which means they cover everything from your dandruff if you have hair like you, to your athlete's feet if you're bald like me and an old geezer. But a lot of plans are being sold by a lot of odd companies on the telephone, which are nothing more than discount plans with tons and tons of limits. The plans we're talking about from Blue Cross or Geisinger in Monroe County, as an example, those plans have no limit to the dollar value. A lot of these things on the phone are very, very bad plans. My own sister-in-law, my brother's 20-year younger wife, decided my plan was too expensive, bought one of these discount plans on the phone, ended up in a hospital for 5 days with a broken appendix, and it was a $67,000 bill. The insurance company she had picked paid $6,000. That's a little heavy duty to have to come up with that kind of money for a hospital bill. But that's why you have to be careful of plans you're getting. Under the law, if you have a minimal essential coverage plan, I'm talking about government-sponsored plan, the maximum out-of-pocket you can pay in 1 year is $8,150, but not many plans have that level. Most of them are $6,000-7,000. So the worst-case scenario, if you pick one of these plans on the telephone, you could be paying tons of money. But if you pick a plan which is a minimal essential coverage plan, you'll be limited, very limited by comparison to those plans. That's the only extra thing I'd like to add in there. But if you also take advantage of all the tax credits and tax advantages, I can also help you get the subsidies so you can pay very, very little for your health insurance and get real good coverage.
Right. And if that's what you're looking to do, if you're looking to decrease your income so that you could qualify for those subsidies, you give us a call and we'll send you over to Bob after we're done. We'll take care of it. So Bob, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate your insight. Thank you for taking the time.
Well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
As always, thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing, and we'll see you next time.